What's going on, everybody? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. So I'm going to do a detailed walkthrough slash build slash demo video for a commission that I recently finished. This is for a KY Lightsabers SK. There is also a KY Lightsabers SK, which is the Sith Killer. But this particular hilt is based off of the Star Killer hilt. It's the one with the exposed crystal. So this is a KY Lightsabers SK. So I want to talk about the chassis. I did do some body modifications to this particular hilt, so I want to talk about that a little bit. And I do have some thoughts on this hilt. So I'm going to migrate into a little bit of an opinion video for this one. There are some obvious differences between this particular rendition of the Star Killer hilt and something like the Corbant SK V2 or V3, and there's some other great ones out there. So I do have some thoughts, and I'll talk about them. But before we get into that, let's talk about the chassis, right? So let's come down into Fusion and go over the chassis really quick. So this is the chassis that I did for this particular install. Very straightforward, short-ish chassis, right? So I've got greeblies along each side. Proffie board sits in this tray, slides up underneath this lip. To secure it, it is press fit as well. So if you, the client, need to get at your board or your USB, or rather your USB port or your SD card, you'll be able to do that here. Around the back, we've got our battery tray and a kill switch. At the bottom, we have room for a 28mm speaker. This speaker was from the Saber Merchant, and it is a static chassis. So I make all of my connections to the rest of the hilt out through the top of this section here, and it is held in place with a set screw, right? So, of course, I mentioned this in my last video. I've got all these Edison tubes. The client did request that I go a little crazy with this particular chassis, so I did put 4 blue Edison bulbs or Edison tubes on each side of the chassis, and they are their own blade, right? So that's pretty much it, nice and simple. Let's come down to the bottom here. So this is the hilt, right? This is the SK Star Killer hilt from KY Lightsabers. And the first thing right off the bat that I notice is, it is a set screw grip, and it is a very, very thick grip. Now, I've said this before, but the majority of KY's hilts have an insane amount of space on the inside. I mean, I've got like 32mm of space to play around with and do nice greebly work on the chassis, but it is a set screw grip. So there is a hex set screw here that you can loosen with your hand. However, I do suggest that this be tightened down with an Allen key. Otherwise, you can get a little bit of play in the grip, right? So we do have a modular pommel. So yeah, the thing that so let's come down to the bottom. I just look at the camera. So the thing that I've noticed with some of KY's, I mean, at this point, it's all of KY's hilts. There's set screws everywhere. I mean, there are set screws everywhere. I've got the SK, the Sith Killer here, and so for an example, there's just like set screws everywhere. Some of them are decorative, some of them are functional, but they're just all over the hilt, right? And with the SK or the Sith Killer, it's no different, right? There's like a set screw down here at the pommel. I'm not really sure why that's there. There's another set screw here that holds in the pommel cap. Interesting design choice. I'm just not sure why there are so many. But yeah, anyway, so it's my only gripe. That's my only gripe. So we'll come back down to the top. Anyway, so set screw grip, making our way up. So KY does ship with a modular crystal chamber for this particular hilt. It is very, very similar to the same aluminum mounts that he uses in the Sith Killer and Jedi Killer. Again, same with the Sith Killer, it's like getting this mount out of here to work on every single time is a pain for me. I'm not sure if he's putting these crystal chambers in immediately after he paints the aluminum or what, but I'm going to be complete. I couldn't even get this bottom part out of here. I could not get this bottom aluminum mount out of the hilt. Whereas before, I've worked on these hilts a couple of times, and I was able to finally get it out with like heat and a little bit of elbow grease. But this just was not budging. There is a set screw here, so it's frozen. It's just froze inside of the hilt. I was able to light both top and bottom, but I had to do it. I had to access it through the bottom of the crystal mount and wire it up. It was a little bit more difficult than I'm used to. But that's just one of the caveats with working with these hilts that I've noticed, right? So anyhow, the crystal chamber did ship with one of those faux acrylic crystals. I removed that because I was able to get this top modular chamber out. I replaced the crystal with a real Quartz Point. And then around the back, I have all of my wire management because I've got to get 3 conductors just past the crystal for the switch. I've got to get my 3 conductors, or 2 rather, for the top NeoPixel. I share the power with the lit PCB here. And then I've got my blade PCB. So there's a lot going on. And what I also noticed, with the Corbanth Star Killer, you can utilize that back shroud and the control box for wire management and get behind that crystal, right? So that you can then put decorative stuff in the back here, like some steel venting or something like that. But with the KY, there's just no way to do that because you've got to get your wires up here, right? So yeah, wire management's just a little difficult, that's all. Around back, we've got our control box with 2 of our large black tactile switches, some greebly work. I did pop and thread a hole for a glass eye. This is a glass eye from the Graflex Shop. So I heat stained that a little bit and threaded a hole and mounted that. That way we get shine through when the blade is in, okay? And then up top we've got I've got a blade plug in here, but there's a PCB emitter from CCsabers. Now to get at your chassis, so I've already had this like hand tightened for the video, but you want to take off that set screw and the grip comes right off. And here is the chassis, right? Just regular paint job on this guy. Some of my greebly work around the sides, nice and simple. So to use your chassis, or use your hilt, spring side is your negative, so take the flat part of the battery, put it in the hilt.
Have another course.
So this was already on. There are those Edison tubes or Edison bulbs. Okay. There's that crystal chamber, both top and bottom NeoPixels, and our shine through on the glass eye. So the Edison tubes are their own blade config in the blade config. The crystal chamber is its own, and the blade is its own. So there's 3 blades in the config. All right. So once you get that battery in and it's turned on, you want to slide your grip back in, line the holes up. Yeah, this is just another, just comes with KY's hilt. So you just got to. It's set screw grip. You got to deal with it, right? So let's come down to the bottom. So twist to activate, twist to deactivate is on. Let's see what else we've got on here.
I'm never touching that thing again.
I mean, I will say that because there's so much room for your 28mm speaker to have it fully enclosed, there's plenty of room for resonance. They do sound really good. I mean, this thing's loud. So let's get a blade in it. So to put your blade in, I actually put, so rather than have another one of those giant grub set screws as your blade retention, I popped an M4 hex brass screw in the top here. Let me just find my Allen key. And that will serve as your blade retention. All right, so I'll pop the blade plug out. Now, to the client, you did request some specific fonts. I have not put them on here yet. I will be putting them on in the config prior to sending you the hilt. So I did get those ready for you. So anyway, put your blade in till it rests on those PCB pins, and then you want to tighten your brass set screw here, and then you're ready to go. See what else we got. One more.
Hello, Zuko here.
That's a miracle. It will be your grave. Color wheel activated. Orange, red, dark orange. Color selected.
So this has been set up with OS 6, so it's got all the regular OS 6 menu. To change color, you want to hold down aux and tap main.
Color wheel activated. Color selected.
And then you tap main again when you find the color that you want. So yeah, nice and simple. There's that. So I did set it up, set the crystal up with like a cooldown animation. Right? Nice and simple. Nice and easy. It's a great hilt. I just, I've said this before, I'm just not a fan of the set screw stuff, so it is what it is, It's just one of those caveats with owning a KY hilt, so it's fine. You just got to make sure you're tightening down that set screw and the grip really, really tightly. That way you don't get any wobble. But other than that, listen, to the client, thank you very much for trusting me with your install. To the viewers, thank you very much for watching. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Thanks for watching, everybody.